Hey everyone, welcome to another Speed Secrets podcast. And this is going to be just a little bit different in that today's guest is Clay Millican. And if you don't know Clay, you should, but Clay is a NHRA Top Fuel drag racer. And Clay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you've won 6 world championships in IHRA. Is that right? In Top Fuel?
That is correct. We got on a unbelievable run early in my career, and we actually won 6 straight world championships. I mean, it was kind of magical, to be honest with you, because I had been a sportsman drag racer, which would, for your audience, would kind of be like the club racer, the autocrosser, and I raced all the time, but not at a professional level. But having done that, the wins don't always come easy. And the second year of my Top Fuel career, we got on a roll that lasted for 6 consecutive years and 6 world championships. And, it was, I knew that it's not supposed to happen that way. You're
Right.
not supposed to be able to win that many races, but we did. And you ride that wave as long as you can. And then when it goes away, you try to find another one. That's kind of how racers, that's what we do. We try to find that winning streak and ride it.
And then just tell me the and listeners, the difference between IHRA and NHRA in Top Fuel.
When I did the IHRA series, which stands for International Hot Rod Association, it was the smaller of the 2 sanctioning bodies. NHRA being the big dog, so to speak, National Hot Rod Association. And the best way probably to think about it is Coke and Pepsi. They kind of do the same thing, but they really don't like each other,
Right.
And a lot of people, looked at it as, maybe like the NASCAR series versus the Xfinity series, which was not really true, because during my IHRA time, I would go and run the NHRA and was very, very competitive. So it wasn't like my car was slower or anything was a lot different. It was just literally 2 companies that kind of competed for the same audience, and they were just not quite as big. They didn't do as many races. And for us, being a new team and a startup with less races, meant we needed less budget to be competitive. And so the sponsorship we had at the time, which was one of the largest trucking companies in the nation, Werner Enterprises, they preferred that we race the IHRA side. And so that's what we did. We had the budget to do it, and we were able to go out there and compete. And to be honest, it was a great, learning opportunity, not only for me, but for the guys we assembled as a team to go out and learn how to chase points, how to, chase a championship. And like I say, it all happened very quickly once it started happening.
Well, and we were just talking just before we got started here, and I'm going to jump into this because, as you know, I mean, I love every form of motorsport. I just, whether it's oval racing, road racing, autocross, rallycross, and I've coached everything and in all those things. I don't know if you know, but I coached a Top Fuel motorcycle racer, Steve Dorn, and I've been to some of the drag race with him, and raced, super bike and flat track motor, like everything. I love every form of motorsport. And I have to tell you that I get a little annoyed. No, I'm going to say I get pissed off when people kind of look down at drag racing a little bit and kind of go, how difficult can that be? Because, again, most of my listeners here they're into road racing, and they like driving in squiggly lines, right? And you like driving in straight lines. So I'm hoping that we can have a little conversation around just how difficult it is to do what you do.
I appreciate you, being bluntly honest like that. It certainly looks simple. Drag racing in its purest form, just watching it, it looks so easy, but there's so many intricacies that people just cannot appreciate unless they try and do it. I mean, let's just think about the process. When we get ready to run, we do what's called a burnout, where we heat the tires up. That seems simple enough. Pretty much everybody's that's listening to this, at the very least, has probably done a burnout.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the hardest thing. Well, imagine doing that burnout if at the end of your right foot is 11,000 horsepower. Pretty
Right.
much, pretty much easy to over rev, pretty much easy to mess a run up immediately if you don't operate the car correctly. So that changes the difficulty just a little bit. We'll get into how the car works a little bit more without me just headed down that road. So now you've heated the tires up. You come to a stop. Now part of what my job is how I operate the clutch for simply backing up. You can leave the clutch out and drag the brake, and that would work, except the problem with that is you've now changed the heat in the clutch, and you've changed the setup of the car, whether you realize it or not, and it doesn't take long. Again, you're talking about 11,000 horsepower and a clutch that slips enough that you can hold the car still with the brake with the clutch out. Unlike any of the cars that anybody's ever driven, they don't really work that way. So now you've got backed up, and hopefully you've had clutch out time, at the proper amount, and you pull back forward. And during all this time, as a driver, you're looking at the fuel flow. These things are burning a massive amount of fuel. A typical run, not counting the warm up in the pit area, these things burn about 15 gallons of fuel in one run.
15 gallons in like
3.8 seconds.
Something less than 4 seconds.
Less than 4 seconds, exactly.
Wow.
So total runtime, burnout, backing up, and all that, we're talking, a little over a minute, but you're looking at 15 gallons of fuel. So as a driver, when you're doing the burnout, backing up, you're paying attention to fuel flow, and you're adjusting that as the driver. The crew chief's told you where it needs to be. You're monitoring other things on the dash as well. And once you pull forward and get ready to go, that's where the fun part for me really, really kicks in. It's according to what's kind of going on, but staging the car, for somebody that's never drag raced at all. And let's remove the Top Fuel car out of it for a moment, and let's just think about, the car that you take autocrossing. Well, it seems simple enough. You go up and you turn 2 bulbs on and you go down the racetrack. Well, it's not that easy. The way you stage the car can affect how quick or how not quick you go. There's a lot to it. There's a process in staging the car. We call it staging shallow, to where you barely get your front tire into the second beam. And I may need to explain that a little bit. If you've ever watched a drag race, in the Christmas tree, there's what we call a pre-stage beam at the top of the Christmas tree, and then a stage beam. Well, it's 7 inches in between those 2 bulbs. Well, if you carelessly just turn that second bulb on, the stage bulb, and you've rolled in 4 or 5 inches, you have just cost yourself, 4 or 5 hundredths of elapsed time, because you've shortened the distance to the finish line, which, you think, okay, well, I'm closer to the finish line. Well, if you're in a qualifying mode, you've also just cost yourself qualifying position. So, there's so much more to it. Okay, now I can talk about this forever and we'll burn up our time together.
No, this is what I want to hear. Yeah. This is so cool to understand.
So let's just say we're in qualifying mode, and we've turned that pre-stage bulb on, and we're in the Top Fuel car. So we have a handbrake and not a foot brake. So as a driver, you're holding that handbrake. You've got the clutch pushed in, and you're holding the handbrake. You've got the top bulb on. The pre-stage is on. At that point, you will what we call courtesy stage, which means you're waiting on your opponent to turn on his pre-stage bulb. Once that happens, and you will, at that point, that fuel that you've been monitoring, now you're going to open the fuel lever all the way. So now we're giving the motor all the fuel, and you'll take your foot completely off the clutch. Again, the car, it kind of wants to go, but you've taken your foot off the clutch. So now you've really began heating up the clutch, and you will finish staging the car, especially in qualifying, very, very gently. You will bump the car very, very slowly, 7 inches in between the pre-stage bulb and the stage bulb. And you'll gently roll that car forward with the handbrake, having taken your foot off the clutch. And by the way, I'm just going to add this in there. You have now taken your clutch foot and moved it to where the brake pedal should be. and we have a little post in there to brace yourself because you're going to be braced. You need to be braced.
Uh-huh.
So once the car is staged and your opponent is staged and the tree flashes yellow, we will do my little tagline, stomp on that loud pedal. At that point, there is acceleration unlike anything else piston driven on the planet. I mean, it is accelerating from 0 to 100 miles an hour in about 0.8 of a second. And I did say 0.8.
Yeah.
You're going 100 miles an hour. G-forces are up around 4.5 Gs the moment that you step on the car. And kind of the driver part of it at that point. Typically, when you're getting ready to stage, you will pick out a target. And I'm going to make this simple, where we're on a really good racetrack and you pick out your target, kind of where you want the car to go. Kind of like in Inner Speed Secrets. You're going to go where you look.
Uh-huh.
So you pick your target out. And when you stomp on the loud pedal, this thing's accelerating so fast. The first part of the run, you typically do not have any steering. So you have got the car pointed initially where you need it to go. A couple 100 foot into the run, you start to have steering input. Well, these things make so much power and so much torque, they typically will wash out a little bit. So at that point, you will need to start giving the car a little bit of steering input while maintaining your focus where you need to go. And to really complicate things, there are racetracks that we go to where the surface may not be that great. And with these cars, we're always worried about maintaining traction. Pre-race, my crew chief, Mike Klober, who you've met before,
Mm-hmm.
and actually does some work with Jeff Brown from time to time. He and I will walk the racetrack, both lanes, one into the other. And if it is a track that's not necessarily stellar, he will point out spots that he will need me to miss, believe it or not, going 330 miles an hour and doing that in on a good run, 3.6 seconds. And it's not like you can just upset the car, because if you do, you will lose traction. So you've got to, kind of gingerly move the car and miss these spots that may be, 300 foot down the racetrack. And when you miss the spot, then you got to get the car back over where it needs to be. And then, as you go down track, there may be some other spots. And if you're lucky, and it doesn't happen a lot anymore, but early in my career, some of the tracks we raced on were not necessarily the best, and we had to do that a lot. And you really learn car control, which probably sounds weird to, people that have that opinion that you just mentioned, that, it's drag racing and it's in a straight line. But, you've got a car making 11,000 horsepower that is essentially 30 feet long, and the back end is constantly trying to pass the front end, and you're trying to put the least amount of steering input in the car to keep from upsetting the chassis and losing traction. So there's a lot going on, and that don't even get into as you're approaching the finish line, you've got to open the parachutes and you've got to be able to let the car settle down, because the tires grow so big and they're not round anymore. You've got to let the car settle before you start applying the brakes to get these things stopped, So I would highly recommend your listeners to go to your local drag strip on what we call a test and tune night, and just simply find out what it's all about. How to cut a good light on the Christmas tree. There's so many things that go into it that if you've only watched it on television, you really have no idea how difficult it is.
Well, I think, and I've got like a million questions here, because, I think, I don't know, I forget what year that was, but a number of years ago, you reached out to me, and then we talked, and I went out to the race in Seattle here, and I can remember you talking about that, I said, what if the car starts to move over in the lane? And I think your comment was something like, you try to will it back, because you were explaining to me at that time that, like, if you turn the wheel, it puts a lateral load in it, and you get a tire that spins, right? And then you have one of those ugly days.
Absolutely. I mean, these things, like I say, are so traction dependent that, you know, I, I really enjoyed when you came out to the racetrack, and we covered a lot of things, but I kind of try to explain to people that you try to just kind of you will the car, you don't give it a ton of steering input. And this is specifically in a Top Fuel dragster. The funny car class, those guys have to do it a little differently than we do. But I try to tell people, you kind of guide it. It's like maybe like herding cattle, to where you're trying to give it just a little indication that I need you to move over.
Yeah.
And again, think back to what I just said a moment ago about trying to miss things on the racetrack. So you're trying to maintain the car being flat. And I am certainly not a road racer by any stretch. I have had the opportunity to go to Bondurant a few times for corporate days, but we try to maintain keeping the car flat, not rolling the thing up on a tire, having any kind of body roll, so to speak. And it's a little bit of, art to that, and trying to get your backside. I use that reference a little bit. Your backside is definitely connected to the car. And so you want to just encourage the car, and you are doing it with the steering wheel, obviously, but you want to encourage the car to stay flat, and, possibly try to do your best to move it around these places where may cause you to lose traction. And at the same time, keeping your eye on that target where you're trying to get to, and do that with as less wheel movement as possible. But there's very rarely that you don't find yourself in a Top Fuel car giving it some wheel one way or the other. It's I love the process of it. I love everything about driving these cars down the racetrack. And I tell people, and when they make great runs that put massive, numbers up on the scoreboards, it is pretty easy. If the car does what it's supposed to do every time, it's no different than you guys. When you go to the racetrack, and if the setup is perfect, it's like the car drives itself.
Yeah.
It's no different with these things, but that doesn't happen all the time. There's so many things that can happen. Race day, you get into a whole different deal where you've got to get to that finish line first, no matter what. If you lose traction, that's where you really have to start relying on what you feel, what the car's telling you, and what you got to do to get the traction back underneath you. Think about, wherever you live. If you've ever driven in ice, you are trying to drive full throttle on ice, and that's what it's like driving a Top Fuel car when they lose traction, what we call smoke the tires. And for me, I got to be honest, I really hate when that happens, but at the same time, I enjoy that challenge of getting the car to get traction. That they want to go sideways. They want to over rev, and trying to harness that and use the throttle pedal, use the brake, use the steering wheel to try to get the car squared back up and get that car to that finish line before your opponent does. I mean, for me, that is just absolutely one of my favorite things ever. Obviously going straight down the racetrack, putting those big numbers up is the objective. But if you can do something to help your team win when things aren't perfect, I mean, that makes every driver feel good.
Yeah, it's the overcoming when things aren't perfect, right? It's how you recover from it. And I'm thinking about the number and types of decisions that you need to make in that less than 4 seconds.
There is, no different, again, than road racing. There's an infinite number of things that you've got to prepare yourself for. Again, your book was huge to me, and we got to kind of talk about that, how you and I got connected to begin with. But But mental programming, when I'm getting ready to get in the car, I've done this a long time now, and I know a lot about how the car works. I can put these cars together from front to rear, and it will start and run. I can't tune one. I don't have that ability, but I can build the car. I know how they're supposed to sound. I know how they work. So mental programming for me is huge, still is to this day. I try to go through the perfect run. I try to go through a tire shaking scenario, which is essentially the tire tries to run over itself and it has not lost traction yet. And this all happens extremely quickly early in the run. There's, a thing a driver can do. Essentially, we slap the throttle pedal. So you go from wide open, you feel it shake, you step off and back on as quickly as possible. So you try to go through that tire shake scenario. Qualifying, there's a different way you drive during qualifying. If you have a normal race weekend and there's 4 qualifying runs, if you go out there on the first run and you make a great run and you've got yourself qualified for the race on Sunday, if you shake the tires or you smoke the tires, if you have a problem on your second or third or fourth qualifying run, you just step off the throttle. So you've got to have in your mind what situation you're in for yourself and the team and the budget, so to speak. Well, a few weeks ago, we had a rain situation during qualifying, and this COVID year, the races have been cut down to 2 qualifying runs. Well, we had a situation where it was cold and rainy, and we only were going to get 1 qualifying run. So I have to mentally program myself for what I need to do to get our car qualified. And pretty much what that means is you pay attention to the cars that have ran in front of you, and you need to know, and the team will help you with this. We do use in-car communication. I need to know as a driver what elapsed time I need to beat so that I can get myself qualified. Mm-hmm. So I will mentally program myself if we have a problem, if we spin the tires immediately, if we shake the tires down track, if it loses traction down track, what I need to do as a driver to get the car to the finish line to get ourselves qualified. So, there's a lot that goes into it before you ever, get your helmet on or get in the car. And then, once you're in the car, I will prepare myself for all those scenarios. A lot of times I think the guys probably think I'm asleep, but I'll shut my eyes and I will visualize a perfect run, stage the car nice and easy, see the light, hit the throttle, and essentially have to make no movements in the wheel. And then I'll program myself for a tire smoking run to where I literally got to off the throttle, let the car settle. The tires on these cars are, they're huge. They got around 119-inch rollout on the tire. So once it loses traction, these tires become huge and out of round. And if you pedal the thing while they're out of round like that, it will not maintain traction. So if it smokes the tires immediately, you've got to let the car settle. So I'll go through that scenario to where if it smokes the tires immediately on the starting line, I need to basically take a breath, count to 2, not necessarily 2 seconds, but take a breath, let the car settle, get back after the throttle. If it spins the tires again, then you've got to start working the throttle to get the car down the racetrack and keep it in your lane, not cross the center line, not touch the wall, any of those things that can get you disqualified. So you try to prepare yourself for whatever situation you may run across. Moving into race day, drivers have tendencies, it doesn't matter what kind of racing you're in. When you're racing someone in a series, you learn that these drivers have certain things they like to do. And, as competitors, maybe you try to use that to your advantage sometime. And the way we do that in drag racing is in the staging process. There may be a driver that that likes to, turn the top bulb on, the pre-stage bulb on first or last, or maybe they want to stage first or last. And, maybe you try to program yourself ahead of time because you're racing driver X or driver Y, and they have this tendency. And if you can disrupt that, maybe you mess up their programming that they've done, whether they actually, practice inner speed secrets or not. If you can disrupt their program, then maybe that gives you a little advantage. It's kind of like trash talking in basketball, I guess, is a way to think about it. We can't bump and run somebody or force them a little deeper into the corner that they want to do. But, our races are thousandths of a second a lot of times. And so if you can do anything to gain a thousandth here or a thousandth there, you try to take advantage of that and get the win light when you cross that finish line.
So you have pre-programmed so many of your races. I mean, much like when I'm working with a driver that's going to go and race at Le Mans or Daytona, a 24-hour race, beforehand, I have them program, okay, you got a gearbox problem. How are you going to drive around that? Okay, now you've got you flat spotted a tire and you've still got 30 minutes left in your stint. How are you going to deal with that? So you're doing that same thing. The difference is that you have to trigger that like that. Like, a guy on a road course can kind of go, okay, I need to adapt here. I better adapt this way. Well, you're already done by that point, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're 100% correct, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, some of your clients that just say, drag racing. Well, we don't have an opportunity to, mess up one lap and then get after it and make it better. Or we don't have an opportunity to pull in the pits and get a fresh set of tires or, make some adjustments to the suspension. We have to have these programs ready to go and fire on them instantly because, there is no next lap. It's win or lose, single elimination, and again, 3-second runs. So you've got to have all these scenarios in your program and fire on them according to what your body and your brain is telling you is happening with the car. You've got to call on them instantly without thinking. It's if you start thinking, it's way too late.
Yeah,
you've got to rely on those programs that you've built in. With mental imagery, all the things that you teach. You've just got to react immediately because again, you do not have time to think about what do I need to do here. You've got to go with what the car's telling you, what your backside's telling you, and what those programs you have built in ahead of time.
So I'm curious, is that something that was natural for you? Or did you kind of go, wow, I really got to learn how to do this visualization, mental imagery thing? Like sometimes I talk to some people and they're like, well, I've always imagined what I was going to do throughout my entire life. And then other people, they really struggle with it. I'm kind of curious, is that something you had to work at or did it come fairly natural to you?
As far as, being able to mentally program mental image, that came kind of natural for me. As far as the car itself, I feel like I'm bragging a little bit, but I feel as though I had some natural ability as far as feeling what a car's doing. I was also very fortunate in that I had a daddy that would take me. I live out in the country, and would take me and taught me some car control. And believe it or not, there's a lot of car control going on in drag racing.
Yeah.
But as far as trying to gather knowledge to learn more about mental programming, imagery, and all those sort of things, I kind of just took to that a little bit from the want to. And want to, for me, is a pretty important thing. It was something that my mama always said that I had. They ran a very small grocery store in a very small town, which I still live in to this day. I've never moved anywhere. And if you want it bad enough, you can figure it out. It may not come easy, and it may not work out exactly how you think, but I wanted to be a professional race car driver, and I wanted to be a Top Fuel driver very, very badly. And so, whether it was reading, whatever I could find that I felt would make me better, I wanted it. And I am going to kind of get into this a little bit. Your book, I came across it just from that wanting to learn and make myself better. And unlike, an autocrosser on the weekend, racing a Top Fuel car is super expensive. And I've never been a part of one of the giant budget teams. And so I've never really had the opportunity to just go and test over and over and over again. And so once I've got the opportunity to drive a Top Fuel car and I had some idea and feeling of what it was like, I wanted to take those runs that I've made and learn how to use that information and make myself better and make those perfect runs in programming without actually having to be in the car. And that was something that I took your book, Inner Speed Secrets, and was able to learn from. I mean, it is a book that once I found it, bought it, read it, I kept that thing like a tune-up secret. I did not want other people to read it. I didn't want them to know, hey, you can make yourself better from simply reading this book that Ross wrote. A lot of the stuff in there, it didn't necessarily pertain to, the people listening to this, they're going to think there's no way that has anything to do with drag racing, but it does. There's the mental part of driving a car, the what you feel, what you see, the peripheral exercises, all the, the bracelets, the lazy eights, all those things in that book. I just gravitated to that and ran with it. And I'll be honest, I continued to read there, but that book, I shared it with only a select few people, and it wasn't people that I raced against. I'll just tell you that. I am holding in my hand right now a very withered, pages folded over book, and in the very front of it, it says, I'm just going to read it to you. Obviously, you can't see it, but my son's name was Dalton, and he was a motocross racer. And so once he got old enough to where I felt like, he was ready, I gave him this book actually for Christmas. And it says, Dalton, I love you. If you want it, it is there. You can do anything. You are the best daddy. Like, this was so special to me. This book meant so much to me. I passed it on to him, and he ended up winning a national championship in motocross. And he ended up driving a monster truck, which, that's a whole crazy subject there, the things they do behind the wheel of those things, But I love the book, and I have continued to read, books that help you mentally. But that was the first, and the book has meant a lot to me. And I have shared it with a few other people, but not guys I race against.
Well, I appreciate that in a way, but if you'd shared it more, I might actually be able to retire something. No. To me, the cool thing about that was you contacted me, and then I got to come out and spend that weekend, and at a race. And unfortunately, it did rain a little bit during that weekend, but I have to say it was one of the more fascinating weekends for me to see your preparation, what you do, and everything. Also, what goes on at a drag race on the mechanical side of things, like watching your crew go through the motor between runs, it was like mind-boggling to think all this stuff happens. I would strongly recommend that anybody who has never been to a top drag race, you got to go and experience it, because it's just a whole. It's like I said, one of the most fascinating events I've ever been to in my life. And you guys do, I don't know if it's still like this at an NHRA event, but you guys do an amazing job of including the fans. and allowing, and probably this year not so much, but allowing the fans to get close and see things. And I think you guys at that time were doing a better job than most other forms of motorsport. So
100% agree. I mean, I think that drag racing is by far the most fan-friendly sport there is, period. And kind of what you were just talking about, if you're mechanical at all, if you love, how mechanical things work, and there is nothing like watching a nitro team prepare a car to make a run, because every 3.6, 3.8 second run, after that run, the engine gets entirely rebuilt, and they do this in less than an hour. Yeah. And the fans are allowed access right there. I mean, you can watch this as it happens, and
it's part of the show, right?
It's part of the show, 100%. It's part of the show. I mean, pit stops are amazing. Whether it's an IndyCar, NASCAR, you name it, those pit stops are amazing. A load of fuel, 4 tires, some chassis adjustments, in 12, 14, 15 seconds. But think about an entire engine rebuild in less than an hour. And we're talking rods, pistons, main bearings, heads, supercharger, clutch. I mean, it's a ballet happening, with these guys just preparing this car to go out there and make, another 330 mile an hour blast. And the fans are allowed that access right there, and in my case, I'm sponsored by Parts Plus, and they bring lots of customers in. I mean, we set up an area right beside the race car where we feed these people and we entertain these people, and they have access to be right there. And it doesn't matter if you have that access or not. As a fan, you can stand right there and watch these guys do this amazing work in a very, very short amount of time. And I think that's what separates, drag racing from other forms of motorsports, because we are so fan friendly and you're allowed that kind of access where, a NASCAR race, IndyCar race, if you're there with a sponsor or a team, you may get a meet and greet with the driver, before the race starts. But once the action starts, that driver's on the racetrack and he's out there for hours at a time. And then once the race over with, it's done. Where drag racing, we go make a run and we come back, and, you have essentially that hour in between runs where you can see what's going on. You get to talk with the driver. So I think NHRA drag racing and all the big events period are super, super fan friendly, and I love it.
So one of the things you told me when I was with you that weekend, and I don't know if it's the same now with less than quarter mile. What's the length of the strip now?
We are 1,000 feet now, so
right.
Short at 320 feet.
Yeah. So one of the things you told me was, depending on the run, if you could get out of the throttle some amount just before the end of the finish line, you save some amount of RPMs or whatever revs out of the engine, and it might allow a crank to last 2 runs instead of 1 run, or something crazy like that. Is that still something that another one of those decisions you're making during the race of, do I breathe this, or
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes.
Should I have not shared that with everybody?
No. It's again, part of programming. If and I'm kind of specifically talking about qualifying here. If you're solidly qualified in the show, and just to explain that, there's 16 qualified spots. They take the quickest 16 cars. Everybody always talks about speed, but we really only care about elapsed time, because that's what gets you to the finish line first. But if you're solidly qualified in the field, you will program yourself a little bit. If the car is not absolutely ripping, other words, the G-force is still up, you may step off that throttle, a fraction of a second early, what we call the mile an hour light. You may step off the throttle there just to try to save some of those parts, thinking about that budget. Because if the car's not performing flawlessly and we have dropped a cylinder, in other words, it quit running on 8 cylinders for one reason, one cylinder's not firing anymore, you can really cause some damage. You can beat the rod bearings up, possibly throw the rods out. And again, the crankshafts in these things, a typical crankshaft, we only get 8 runs out of, and they're over $4,000. So, it may allow you to get 1 or 2 more runs out of a crankshaft. So, that's part of it too. Race day, kind of all bets are off. Mike and I will communicate. If race day, I'm ripping down the racetrack and the other car lost traction very, very early in the run, a lot of times he will, it's not like we have a conversation on the radio, but he may yell, stop, stop, stop. And I can hear that. If I hear pretty much anything on the radio, I'm going to step off the throttle, and that's another way to try to, take care of the budget a little bit, not break as many parts. And so, that's just another one of those things you react to as it happens, but you've got to have that programming ahead of time to know what situation you're in at that moment.
And again, in less than 4 seconds, which again is mind-boggling. Yeah, I want to ask you sort of one more main question about the driving part is, when I've been out of a car for a long time, which kind of I'm at that point in my driving career where I'm out of a car a lot for a long time, unfortunately. During the lockdown time, did you drive? Were you out of the car for a while?
I was out for the longest period of time I've ever been in my career.
So I'm curious, when I've been out of a car for a long time and I get back into a car that's really fast, the very first time I take off, my vision changes just a little bit. It's like my eyes are not quite accustomed to that G load and that speed and that acceleration and stuff. I got to think that what you're doing is like that a million times over. How does your vision keep up at that rate of acceleration?
It's funny. My little thing I always say is I haven't rode the roller coaster in a long time. And the thing with the Top Fuel car, we haven't talked about this at all, is essentially you can't drive these things. They're not happy to drive at part throttle. So we have no choice because of the way the systems are set up on the car, the way the fuel system works, the clutch works, the ignition works. It is based off of wide open throttle. So you don't get that opportunity to, I'm just going to ease into this thing and see how it feels. So during this whole COVID pandemic thing, the first time I hopped back in the car, again, it was the longest period I've ever been out. It was like, oh my goodness, this roller coaster is really, really fast, but I tried to just, maintain my target and drive to it. And as far as, my vision goes, I got to be totally honest. You pick that target out and you still got to, rely on those programs that you have built in, even though you haven't used them in months and months and months. But that may be one of those runs where you get back to the trailer and you're sitting down with your crew chief that perhaps your body didn't absorb as much information as it will on the second run because It was so fast.
Yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable, really.
Huh. It's just kind of, to me, one of the things that's fascinating is how we as humans can adapt to things. Like, I'm pretty sure our bodies, our brains, all that, we weren't designed to accelerate that fast. And yet some of you have adapted pretty darn well to that.
It is really crazy what our bodies can do. And we have all this, data acquisition on the car and all those things. But when you're present and you're truly bolted in that car, you're able to relay information that even, those data acquisitions cannot pick up, especially, a veteran driver like myself that has made, thousands of runs in these things. You're able to absorb that, without thinking. You're able to, your body knows what's good and bad. And a lot of times you're able to take that information and help the crew chief and make the car better. And it's just totally baffling that your body and your brain can absorb that and do something with it and make changes with it and adapt to the conditions that the car is giving you at the moment. Again, in that 3-second run, the body is an amazing thing. It ceases to amaze me what can be done and how quick these cars keep going. They just keep going faster and faster. And I think sometimes, the driver has a little bit to do with that. If he's able to help his team, what he feels in the car and able to pass that information forward, and they're able to apply more, power, more clutch in different areas of the racetrack and improve, the tune-up of the car.
Well, you reminded me of, there's that whole 10,000 hour rule of, we can only master something if we spend 10,000 hours. I don't know how many lifetimes you would have to drive a drag car to get to 10,000 hours, but you have thousands of repetitions. And so maybe what's more important is the actual the number of repetitions than the actual amount of time that you're spending doing that.
Agreed. Without a doubt, the more opportunities you get to stomp on that loud pedal, I think the better you become. Without a doubt, I'm able today to drive a car out of, that has lost traction much better than I did when I first started. Everybody says, your reaction time, slow down, that sort of thing. I think in drag racing, and you're a coach, maybe you can tell me that I'm wrong in this thinking, but when that Christmas tree is fixing to come on, I don't think age has a lot to do with it. But I think once the car's going, the amount of repetitions is very, very much to your advantage over a young driver that does not have a clue what's happening and how fast it's happening in a drag race, in a Top Fuel car.
Well, I think it's interesting. It seems to me that drag racers on average are older. You don't see, like in Formula One, you see Max Verstappen in a Formula One car at 18 years old, right? And drag racers. So there is that whole thing around its anticipatory reaction time as opposed to simple reaction. Like you don't just wait for it to happen. You're anticipating.
Yep. You've got to react the moment you feel it. That's, and again, everybody listening, man, I encourage y'all to, if you can, go drive your own car at a drag strip just to kind of get an idea of what it's like. And I certainly encourage you to come to a national event where, the pros are there and experience what that's like. I mean, it's one of those things that if you go and experience it, when you do catch it on television, you'll appreciate it so much more, because drag racing is not just going in a straight line. It seems that way, but it's certainly not. It's way more going on than that.
So let's pretend you've just won final. I come up and I'm the TV guy, and I come up with the microphone and I say, "How was it?"
Wow.
Get your sponsors in and tell me give me the pitch, like the usual, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, it's hard to duplicate that winning attitude, but without a doubt, I mean, I would not be here, plain and simple. I mean, Parts Plus has sponsored, my racing for the last 10 years. And,
wow,
there's so many companies that are involved. The cost of doing this is unbelievable. It's nowhere near, NASCAR level, and certainly nowhere near Formula One level, but it is a huge, huge cost to operate these things. But I mean, definitely Parts Plus, and we've got a company that we've been working with for a long time, Larice Motorsports Insurance, which, since you offered me this platform, that is something that every autocross racer, everybody listening to this should check out, because they offer, insurance, whether we like it or not. We've got way more invested in our, hobbies than maybe we care to. And these guys actually, give the opportunity for people to put a little insurance on your hobby. And, you just start thinking about your trailers and tools and all the things that are involved that even if it is your hobby, you've got a lot invested in. And so we've had a great relationship with Larice Motorsports Insurance over the last few years. And It's crazy. It's what I do for a living, but I know, a lot of my friends, they race locally, and, you got a lot riding up and down the road when you're hauling it out to the racetrack. Yeah. So there's kind of my calm down sponsor pitch, not the, I just won Bristol, Parks Plus made me, get the win, and, the team made it all happen. That would be a little more normal, but probably a lot louder and screaming and carrying on.
Yeah. You don't do a John Force imitation, so.
Well, I probably have a real one, except the difference between me and John Force is you would be able to understand what I was saying versus what he's saying.
Well, one of the things, though, that comes through is just, you've been doing this for a long time, and your passion and love for the sport is obviously still there, which is really cool. One last question, then I'm going to let you go because I know you got a gazillion things to do. But if you could give listeners of this podcast one piece of advice, I call it, give them your speed secret, what would it be? Focus
on what you want. That is pretty short, sweet, and simple, and it rolls right into a little bit of our conversation we've had here.
Yeah.
Practice is programming, so focus on what you want. Don't let the bad thoughts come into your head. Keep those away. You gotta want it. So focus on what you want, not what you don't want.
That is so good. That is so valuable. So, Clay, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been fun, and it's been fun to reconnect. And maybe next summer you're back up in Seattle. I'll try to get out and see you. So,
yes, you and Jeff need to come, and
yeah,
I need to order some of his coffee. I am very much a coffee drinker.
Oh man, so I'm not a coffee drinker, but my wife is, and all my friends are. So yeah, you need to get Jeff's coffee roast. Mesa Vista coffee, whatever, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So we got to pitch in for Jeff here too. So
absolutely. I know he and my crew chief, Mike Klober, they talk pretty regularly. And I got to be honest, I told you I can put that Top Fuel car together from one end to the other. But when those two get together, I might as well leave the room because they lose me very quickly. They get pretty technical.
Right. Yeah. Well, Clay, keep learning, keep having fun, and good luck with next season and on and on and on.
Well, thank you so much. And again, here is your pitch. Go and buy Inner Speed Secrets because the answers are in there. Guys, if you get the opportunity, it ain't if you get the opportunity, go read that book. It's meant a ton to me over a 20-plus year professional driving career, and I was so excited that you invited me to be on your show. Thank you very much, Ross.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks. Keep having fun.
Here's a heads up for all you book lovers searching for a great read. Ross has ebooks, many of them free. They are simple, quick reads that deliver maximum learning. Topics include tuning the shocks, or for you purists, tuning the dampers, how to use mental imagery to improve your driving, tips and advice on endurance racing, how to learn a track fast, and a very cool one that's made up of illustrations that explain driving concepts and techniques. And remember, most of them are free. Go to speedsecrets.com/ebooks to download your next read. As always, keep learning and having fun.